Hi, it's Ben and Angel, and we want to talk about kids' play. Alright, so why is play important? Play is important because it allows children to explore the world, gain mastery over their environment, and to use imaginative thinking in order to experiment with outcomes and cause and effect. Children use play to express their grief. They use it to gain understanding about the circumstances surrounding a death. They communicate their feelings through play uh, and build problem solving skills that they need in order to cope with the grief and loss. Gun games are a great way for children to explore death and dying. It gives children the opportunity to pretend to die. There's many different ways to die in a game as there are children. Some children use the opportunity to just sort of flop down and rest from the game, and other children will do the Hollywood sort of death scene where they stagger around, and another aspect of gun games that is interesting is that it gives children the opportunity to do experience what Jay Meckling calls the Tom Sawyer effect, and that is that they get to sort of pretend and their own death. Imagine uh, what it will be like when they die. Who will miss them? How upset will people be? That sort of thing. Childhood has changed dramatically just in my lifetime. In 1971, a survey of third graders found that 80% walked to school. Uh, the same survey, repeated in 1990, showed that only 9% of third graders walked to school. Um, so, what's the difference? The difference is that people are scared. People are scared to let their kids out of the house. People are scared to let their children run around the neighborhood and play and do things, climb trees, and do things that the kids have always done. Um, you know, we have this idea that the world is somehow worse or more dangerous, and that really isn't true. The FBI has reported, you know, violent crime rates dropping pretty continuously. Um, Steven Pinker calls the decline in violence the most significant and least appreciated development in the history of our species. Um, the world is, by any measurement, a safer and uh, more peaceful place than it ever has been before. The difference is now that TV and internet media have really connected the world, made the world a smaller place in a way that never was true before. Um, no matter how few violent crimes are committed, there will always be enough to fill up a newscast. There were two specific cases in the late 70s that really changed the way we view childhood. Okay, we've come to Linwood Park in Spokane to see a slide, just like the one Frank Nelson was on when he fell in 1978. Frank Nelson fell from a slide just like this one, hit his head on asphalt, and fractured his skull. He suffered permanent brain damage and paralysis of the left side of his body. A year later, Frank's family sued the city of Chicago in a lawsuit that would drag out for several years. They ultimately won a $9 million settlement, and in addition to a structured settlement agreement that would pay Frank over the remainder of his lifetime and could total more than $30 million, depending how long he lives. Liability was now suddenly a concern, and cities and schools and other people, other agencies suddenly felt that they might be sued too. Um, Joe Frost was an activist at the time, took up the cause of making playgrounds safer, and he began cataloging accidents like Frank's and petitioning for national safety standards and governmental regulations. He was ultimately successful with that campaign, and it actually made things a little worse. Okay, we're about to go down the terrible slide of doom. So Ethan Patz is a little boy in 1979, just 9 months after Frank Nelson's accident. He was walking from his house to the school bus stop and disappeared in between. He had been bugging his mom for quite a while to let him have that responsibility, and this was the first time that she had relented and let him walk by himself. The story captured the media. There was weeks and weeks of nonstop coverage. Everybody in the U.S., everybody in the world maybe, was looking for Ethan Patz and wondering what had happened to him. Parents across the nation began restricting the amount of time that their kids spent unsupervised. For the first time ever, parents organized supervision at school bus stops. Children need the experience of play. They need to be able to take risks. They need to explore the world outside of their parents' supervision. They need to play with fire. They need to climb trees. They need these experiences in order to develop the skills that they need later in life, including coping skills, including problem-solving skills. We've limited children so much because of our fear that we have. We're taking away these opportunities for them to learn.